Why is this one here? Because that's where they told me it was. Right between two unforgiving deserts, a plan was set into motion. A plan so bold, so absurd, it sounded like a mirage whispered into a bureaucrat's ear. A highway, built on nothing but sand, sweat, and stubbornness. One that would carve through sacred soil, dodge endangered sheep, and try to connect two of the fastest-growing cities in America, Las Vegas and Phoenix. Some called it visionary. Others called it a billion-dollar boondoggle, but one thing was clear. The desert was not going down without a fight. Las Vegas and Phoenix. Glittering, sprawling, relentless, two cities that were never supposed to exist here. Las Vegas, born from gamblers, gangsters, and neon lights, rose out of the Mojave Desert, a place where temperatures crack 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and rainfall is so rare it makes headlines. Phoenix, the shimmering capital of the Sonoran Desert, stretches endlessly across cactus-choked lands scorched by sun and battered by monsoon floods. Yet here they are, two modern metropolises pulsing with life, surrounded by terrain that does everything it can to push life out. How? Pipelines, power lines, reservoirs. Lake Mead feeds Vegas, the Colorado River quenches Phoenix. Food is trucked in, electricity flows in, life itself is piped in. These aren't cities born of nature, they're held together by human will and imported water. But even human ingenuity hits a speed bump. For decades, only one major road connected Las Vegas and Phoenix, U.S. Route 93. It was narrow, dangerous, outdated. No dividers, blind curves, fatal crashes. Between 2010 and 2016, over 90 people lost their lives on that stretch, many in high-speed head-on collisions. Drivers feared it. Families grieved it. Freight companies cursed it. Because by the 2010s, Las Vegas wasn't just casinos, it was a $144 billion freight hub. Phoenix, over $330 billion in goods moving through, and yet their only connection was a road that looked like it came out of the 1950s. It was like plugging a fire hose into a garden faucet. The traffic, the freight, the pressure, it was all too much. Something had to give. The idea was radical. Interstate 11. A new high-speed corridor that would finally connect Vegas to Phoenix. But not just that. I-11 was to become part of the Canamex Corridor, a North American trade artery linking Mexico to Canada, bypassing California's clogged coastal routes. It would be a lifeline for commerce, a highway for the 21st century, a spine of steel and concrete running through a desert spine. But here's the catch. Most of it would run through nowhere. No cities, no crowds, no congestion. Critics mocked it, why build a highway through a wasteland? But planners fired back. You don't build infrastructure for today, you build it for tomorrow. That kind of vision, that kind of guts, only in the U.S. Nevada didn't wait. By 2015, Boulder City became ground zero. Crews began carving a 15-mile stretch of pristine interstate, 4 lanes, designed for the future. It wasn't just a construction site, it was a war zone against nature. Bulldozers chewed through volcanic rock. Controlled explosions blasted mountain flanks. Crews worked under 120 degrees Fahrenheit heat, wrapped in asbestos-proof gear, because, surprise, the Mojave hides deadly minerals beneath its sands. Over 14,000 air quality tests were run. Safety wasn't a checklist, it was a religion. But Nevada didn't just build a road. They built wildlife crossings, scenic overlooks, eco-friendly drainage, and concrete corridors that respected nature's routes. In August 2018, the Boulder City bypass opened. It was smooth, safe, and stunning. For a brief moment, the desert whispered, "Well played." Meanwhile, across the border, Arizona froze. The proposed route sliced through Ironwood Forest National Monument, home to ancient trees and the last desert bighorn sheep in southern Arizona. Environmentalists, tribal leaders, and conservation groups rallied hard. They weren't protecting scenery, they were protecting sacred ground. The highway threatened migratory paths, nesting grounds, groundwater, and cultural heritage. Lawsuits loomed. Meetings turned hostile. Momentum died. One state was laying asphalt, the other was laying battle lines. This wasn't just about progress, it was about priorities. And Arizona, it chose caution over speed. Here's the irony. The most powerful argument for the highway didn't come from humans, it came from the animals. In 2014, biologists tracked 25 bighorn sheep near Boulder City. Would they use the wildlife crossings or ignore them? The result, every single one used the designated paths. No deaths, no confusion, just silent adaptation. Coyotes, foxes, mule deer, even tortoises followed. The animal kingdom did what bureaucracy couldn't. Adjusted. Inspired by this, Arizona quietly began adding wildlife corridors to US 93. And like magic, bighorn sheep collisions dropped from a dozen per year to 0. Sometimes, nature doesn't need saving. It just needs a bit of help crossing the road. Suddenly, people saw I-11 not as a road, but as a corridor of possibility. Developers offered free land for the highway's path, betting that proximity would spike land value. Federal officials pitched it as a trade route, a backup to the vulnerable California ports. A 2011 study showed that only 9% of roads in the Southwest were congested, but by 2040, that jumps to 28%. Interstate 11 became the pressure valve, the escape route from California's future gridlock. But critics had their knives out. You're not relieving traffic, you're attracting it. This is about land grabs, not logistics. Maybe they're right. Maybe I-11 is less about what it solves and more about what it invites. Years after the machines rolled out of Boulder City, something strange happened. Green. Along the edges of the asphalt, native plants began growing. Desert grasses, wildflowers, shrubs once smothered under dust. It was like the land exhaled. Wildlife crossings were teeming with life. Animal deaths? Nearly 0. Traffic flowed cleaner. Emissions dropped. Emergency calls slowed. Even freight traffic picked up. Logistics companies began rerouting through Nevada quietly, steadily, efficiently. What once seemed like a gamble had become a success story few noticed. And yet, the dream remains unfinished. Arizona's portion, stretching from Hoover Dam to Nogales, still isn't built. Environmental reviews, funding gaps, political friction, they've all conspired to keep the desert untouched. And in that silence, the question grows louder. Should we finish this? In a world of fragile supply chains, growing populations, and heated geopolitics, a resilient inland highway is no longer a luxury. It's a necessity. If completed, I-11 would stretch from Mexico to Canada, through valleys sacred to tribes, across lands once thought unbuildable. It would be bold. It would be controversial. It would be very American. Interstate 11 is not just concrete. It's a test of how far we'll go to connect what was never meant to be connected, of whether we can build without breaking, grow without erasing, advance without forgetting what lies beneath. So what do you think? Is Interstate 11 a corridor to the future or a mirage disguised as progress? Should Arizona finish its stretch or let the desert win this round? Let us know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one, right where the road meets the impossible.